That is a lie. And I'm going to tell you why it's a lie. I'm going to tell you right now why it is a lie. Because you said that you messed up. And
I messed up.
Wait. And instead of taking your lumps, like you said, because you're going to be a man and take your lumps, you said you were shucking and jiving. You said you were dancing. You said you were No, I'm calling your bullshit out now. No. Now you're up here lying.
I'm not lying.
The last panel guest had a very interesting perspective. He stated something that was very interesting about the criminal justice system. He claimed that the system is unfair for Black people. He's saying that it's set up in a way to fail for us, meaning that the criminal justice system is working as it was intended to work, meaning it's meant for us to not be successful. It's meant to entrap us. It's meant to imprison us as an African American community. And I had some pushback about that. I'm very passionate about this topic. Why? Well, because I work in the system. I see the real issues. I understand what's going on. I understand what the culprit is. And I understand what needs to be removed out of it and what needs to be replaced to make it better. So I want you guys to take a look at this discussion. I'm very curious to see what you think. Now, I respect this man 100%. Why? Because his thoughts are the same thoughts that are shared by millions of other Black people. There's something that's going on in our community. We see something. We see something that's there. We see that there's a problem. We see the smoke, but we can't see the fire. Why? Because we're not close enough to it. Do you see what I'm saying? I see the fire. I'm in the fire. I'm playing in the fire all day. I know how hot it is, and I know how to put it out. But when you're on the outside, all you see is smoke. He has a lot of smoke. He has a lot of smoke, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with understanding your truth, understanding what you believe the situation is. There's nothing wrong with that. But the moment someone brings you truth, now you have to do some due diligence now. Now it's on you to take that truth in and examine it and say, hold on. Now I have to make some adjustments to my understanding.
In the background, but I had to jump in and speak on this particular subject because it hits me a little bit different because I'm in the fitness space and I'm out running the streets every day, running hill sprints and, running around. So seeing something like this happen the way that it did, hits particularly hard for a person like myself. But I want to kind of get a slightly different perspective on the situation than I think most people are talking about. I think a lot of times I've heard a lot of people say that the system is broken, and I got to say that I think the system is working exactly the way it's supposed to. And the reason why I say something like that, right, is the fact that we wouldn't even be talking about this unless somebody slipped up, right, and took the video to the whatever, right?
One of the defendants.
So we've got corrupt police department, corrupt citizens that have a hand in the police department, corrupt DA, and corrupt judges. But see, that's the norm. In fact, the reason why we're even tripping in the first place is because something out of the ordinary came out, right? It was out of the ordinary that we're even talking about this in the first place. So this is not exactly the way it would normally go. Sure, the law is the law, but the law is written in a way so that there's always plausible deniability at every step of the way. So that if a cop needs to wiggle out of something, if the DA needs to wiggle out of something, if somebody needs to wiggle out of something, then they have enough latitude, unless it's a Black person that's got the crosshairs on them. Generally, they get caught up. So I think that we want to say, oh, we really hope that justice is served. But I'm like, the system is kind of set up for it to, that man should have been dead off in a corner in a ditch somewhere and nobody would have ever even heard of him if the system would have worked the way it normally does. And that's, unfortunately, that's just kind of, I know it's like not going to be a popular direction, but
Wait. Listen, if you would have said the system worked like this normally 100 years ago, I would believe you.
I mean, okay,
but it's not normal.
Okay, I am so glad that you said that, Lead. Okay, so every other day I'm hearing about a guy being falsely accused and getting out of prison. He had been locked up for 29 years, locked up for 25 years, locked up for 15 years, locked up to 14 years. How does someone get locked up for that amount of time and be falsely accused? It only comes with the help of the police. It comes with the help of the DA. It comes with the help of the judges. The system works exactly the way that it's supposed to be able to railroad people and railroad them into positions, into jail. Now, obviously, if you go by the letter of the law, Lead, and I know exactly what you're saying, then yeah, sure, guilty, not guilty. But if that were the case, then we wouldn't have so many of these situations where people are getting railroaded into cases and into jail time.
I hear what you're saying. Let's kind of look at it this way. How is the system set up? The system is set up so that the vast majority of people get arrested and convicted. The vast majority of people get convicted when they should. All right. It's like a bell curve. I don't know if you guys know what a bell curve looks like, but the middle of the bell curve, that's supposed to be the vast majority of people that get convicted when they should. Now, there's going to be one side of the bell curve where people are not convicted when they should be convicted. People, and Nathan has seen this. Nathan knows about cold cases that don't get solved. People commit murders and never get caught, right? But the system contemplates that. It's like, hey, man, but there's another side to that spectrum. The other side to the spectrum is that people get convicted of things that they're not guilty of, right? There is no way to eliminate either side of those extremes. Those extremes are absolutely going to be there, right? But you can go into court any day of the week and see tons of people getting convicted, right? And so, go ahead.
If we actually follow the letter of the law, then what you said would be true. But
no, what I said is true.
But police pick and choose what laws and what times they want to fulfill their obligations to whoever and whatever. They pick and they choose. Sometimes they'll give a ticket, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll do this, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll give a pass, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll plant evidence, sometimes they don't.
The law contemplates that. The law gives officers the ability to use their discretion to say,
which is why they're part of the problem.
So let me step in.
Okay, yeah, step in. No, I was just gonna say, you're saying that discretion is part of the problem, but I will tell you this. I will tell you this, Alvin, and I want you to take this to heart. I was young, I was 19, and I was doing something incredibly stupid. And a cop showed up and cursed me. I mean, a white cop too, cursed me to slam out, and I could absolutely have gone to jail. And he cursed me out. He told me he could take me to prison and where I get fucked in the ass. Those were his words, literally. And he got in his patrol car and walked away. Right? What is that? That is officer discretion.
Absolutely.
And with what I was doing, it could have impeded me going to law school. So when we talk about officer discretion and you say, oh, that's part of the problem, I want to correct you. Officer discretion has saved a lot of people. It really has. Now you can say the discretion can be used poorly, and I agree, but you cannot say that the discretion is part of the problem necessarily. Officers need discretion. But this is from a legal point of view and a personal, but Nathan has a personal and professional side of that too. Can you talk to us a little bit about officer discretion?
Yeah, absolutely. And TLA is 100% correct. I could give you countless of stories of officers, white officers, black officers, Hispanic, no matter what, you can name whatever you want to name it. The reality is that the beauty of the discretion is exactly how I described it. being able to take a situation and look at it and say, you know what, it doesn't require this level of an extreme, right? I had a case one time with a gentleman. He had 4 dime bags. He's 19 years old, 4 dime bags. He had, I think, about $50 in cash on him. And my partner wanted to charge him, and he was white, wanted to charge him with distribution of marijuana with 4 dime bags, right? Now you could argue the law, the elements will align and say, yeah, it's intent to distribute. It is. It's in the book. It says it. It's plain and simple. It's very straightforward. No one would argue with the judge, would give you the warrant. I looked at him. I said, that's a felony. He's 19 years old.
So
the kid wants to go to college, right?
So
he wants to get a grant. He wants to do these things. He wants to be a nurse. You can't get a nursing license with a drug conviction, a felony drug conviction, right? So now you're talking about 4 dime bags would interfere with this kid having a future, right? And so what did I say? Why can't we just charge him with less than an ounce? It's the same charge.
Right.
It's how you articulate it. That's discretion. So when you talk about removing discretion, the issue is not discretion. The issue is the officers who are using their discretion. Are you using it in good faith, right? That's the argument. The issue is, are we having officers who are using their power in good faith? That is the issue. It's the maturity and the mindset of the officers that we need to be examining. Not the law. The law is fine. The issue is not the law. The issue is people who break the law, right? So you can't say that.
That's interesting that you say that. So are you telling me that you've never witnessed either another police officer committing a crime, or you weren't privy to another police officer committing a crime ever in your career?
I have never. No, I have not. And I will tell you this, though. I know officers who have committed crimes, and they're in prison today for those same crimes.
And they should be.
And absolutely. But what I'm saying to you is that here's the reality. The reality is we have a lot of officers that are doing amazing jobs. Just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
No.
Right?
Bro, what do they say? They say that a spoiled apple, what does what?
You tell me.
Ruins the bunch.
Okay.
The bunch. The spoiled apple ruins the whole bunch. But what happens is people like to say, oh, well, just a bad apple. And then they stop the saying right there. Oh, bad apples. Oh, bad apples. Oh, bad apples. Bad apples do what? They spoil the bunch, meaning that when other police officers are privy of the information or the things that they've been doing, planting evidence, not writing this down, not writing that down, leaving a dead body in the street, not reporting, not arresting somebody. Hey, well, it just happened, right? Did it not just happen? Ahmaud Arbery got killed in the street, right? Murdered in the street. Nobody went to jail. So you tell me, brother.
Okay, well, here's the thing, brother. Just calm down.
Let me what's going on?
Let me explain something to you. You started out saying that the system is. I think you said it's not working. That you said.
No, I said it is working. Okay, I'm saying it's working exactly the way that it's supposed to. I think that we look at it like we.
All right, let me jump in. Right, let me just jump in right quick. Let me just jump in right quick. You're saying that the system is working exactly like it was supposed to, and then you mentioned one thing that went wrong, and then you mentioned another thing that went wrong, and then
it didn't go wrong. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that the law is written in a way that allows enough wiggle room for things like this to happen. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, here's my point, because it seems like 3 people murdered a black man. There was a lot of stuff that went on, a lot of undercover stuff with all the DAs and the videos and the lies. There was a lot of BS that went on. And yet and still, these 3 men are on trial for murder. The founding fathers who created the Constitution would agree with you when you say the system worked, because through all of the BS that happened, through all of the prosecutorial abuse that went on, everybody making statements and then recusing themselves, from the GBI having to get into it, from our governors our Georgia governor having to get into it, from the feds, the federal government having to get into it, from our attorney general to have to get into it. our founding fathers was like, look, fucker, like, what do you want? Like, you know, our system isn't perfect, but you're saying the system worked. The founding fathers agree. These 3 men murdered a black man and they're on trial. What
Absolutely.
more do you want?
And without the advent of Facebook and the internet, those men would not be behind bars. They'd be walking around. Like, I mean,
One second. Before you dive in that though, let me touch on something real quick. I understand what you're leading to. I don't disagree, right? And just like TLA said, there is the problem with our criminal justice system is it's not perfect. And the reason why it's not perfect is because people are operating it, and people aren't perfect, right? So this is the key. And so I agree with you. Just like I can stand up here and tell you I'm pro law enforcement, right? I can identify an officer that isn't good, no matter what his skin color is. The idea is that the reality is you have people who are actually putting in these leadership roles who aren't qualified to be in them, right? What do we see in the Ahmaud Arbery case? We had a DA that violated her oath of office, right? She, within her power, was able to allow the McMichaels to circumvent around the law. We've seen it in the Epstein case, right? We see how corruption can cause a problem in our system, right? The system itself is not the issue. It's the people that we entrust to be in them. And so when we make this statement, we need to be clear on what we're talking about. The system's not perfect. We understand that. It's the people that we need to be mindful of. Examine the people. Let's not look at the system. The system is there. We have laws. Laws are supposed to be followed, right? And here's the reality. We have an understanding as a people, right, that we have this social contract that we are going to obey these laws. We're going to live amongst each other peacefully. And when someone operates outside of that, there's consequences, right? But what we are hoping and what we're praying for is that the people who are in position of power are doing their job and that they have the integrity to execute that job properly. What we need to be looking at are who are not executing that job properly and not the actual system itself. Because to your argument, you're saying the system was created and essentially to do exactly what it's doing. And what
exactly it. To allow plausible, like I said, plausible deniability, right? Like, I could, but I can't. Okay, for example, real quick, stop.
They're in the process of convicting 3 men. So what I'm trying to figure out what your issue is.
What I'm saying is that I think a lot of time, I think what we're doing is we're coming from it from a direction of, well, I hope justice is served and I hope that everything works. And what I'm saying is that it's a rarity that we're being able to have this conversation and that this is rare. You talked about a bell curve. This is on one end of the bell curve, right? But what I'm trying to say is that the majority of the situations are in the middle. And there's a lot of these situations like this that slip through the cracks and that get Black folks, 3 times as many Black folks get locked up than white folks, right? Why is it that we only get arrested for jaywalking? Why is it that we only get stopped and frisked? Why is we? Oh, because some police officer decided that he took the discretion and he decided that, oh, this person looks like he's up to no good instead of this person. That's what the law is for. The law allows police officers to do that so that they can operate the way that they do. I'm afraid for my life, right? All I got to say is I'm afraid for my life. That's all cops got to say. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Stop resisting.
Here's the issue. Let me just jump in right quick. Wait. Yeah, the issue is that you're talking about fringe cases, but
no, I'm really not.
Well,
though.
Right, well, let me just jump in for a second. Mm-hmm. Let's back up for a second. Let's back up for a second. Who are you talking to? You were talking to. Wait, hear me out. You were talking to one man who has been in these streets for 30 years. Let me back up even further than that. Are you an officer or like what is your profession?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a trainer. I'm a trainer and entrepreneur. Yeah, I'm a fitness guy.
You're talking to a man who spent 13 years in the streets, 13 years investigating people, 13 years of arresting people, 13 years of going to court, testifying, writing police reports. You're talking to a man who's an expert in his field, in the subject that you are opining about. You're a trainer, but you're talking to an expert. This isn't to say that he's right and you're wrong. Let me finish. But I just want to establish what the fuck's going on. And then you're also talking to another person, another man who has spent 20 years in and out of these courtrooms. So I don't want you to get up on this panel and think like you're on some other panel where, you know, theories are going to matter, because you're talking to two men who have been in the trenches for years. Now
Understood.
we can hear, him and I can hear when we're talking to a person who has a lot of theories. But, you know, we have seen so much, Alvin, in real years of our lives that you haven't seen. Right? You have a TV and you have Facebook. We are actually in the courtrooms, Alvin. Right? So when you say the fringe cases, lead, that you're talking about, the fringe cases, these are not fringe cases. These are actually the majority of cases. I know, and Nathan knows, that that's not true.
Right.
What I'm saying, I've had experiences in and out of the law, and not on the good side. So I probably am a little bit more versed than you might think. But what I'm saying,
no. Your experience with the cops will never amount to what this man has seen.
I'm not saying that. No. And lead, all I'm saying is this. You can't deny the facts that the man got shot down in the street and no one was arrested for 70 some odd days. And that doesn't happen unless there's avenues for it to happen. If someone absolutely had to go to jail because someone got murdered, but the system is set up in a way so that someone didn't have to go to jail, is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's set up to where they could have gotten away. And if not for the fact of a video, they'd still be at home right now. Is that not true?
The problem is I get your logic. You're not, you know, the thing I talk about on my channel a lot is that perception is reality, right? So you're perceiving something, which is completely fine. You have the right to perceive it that way. Again, I think what TLA is pointing out is that we have active knowledge, active experience in these professions, and we're trying to explain.
What does that have to do with the fact that a man was murdered and the people weren't arrested for it for 72 days? I don't understand how that is the same as me having experience.
Alvin, listen. No one disagrees with you about this case, brother. Right. We're all on the same. Here's the problem that you're making. I hope you're listening. You're taking this case, which we all agree on, and then you want to expand it to the whole system. Now, this case, you know as much about this case as we do. None of us are experts. But when you expand it to the system, now you are talking to two men who are experts in the system, and you're not. We know about the system. We fed our families through the system, and you have not. We are way more intimately close to the system than you are. We agree with you on this case, Alvin. We agree.
I understand. All I was saying was
we agree.
We do agree. All I was saying is that I think that sometimes we come from a direction of thinking that the justice system is on our side, and we hope that the way we expect the way that the court systems and justice and everything is supposed to go towards right. And that's not always the case, is what I'm trying to say. And unfortunately,
we all agree with that.
And I think that, you know, for, you know, I did write down a couple of interesting things that, you know, people want, and you can attest to this, lead, right? People, even right now, right? People aren't educated in how the system works. They don't know how jury pools are being, how juries are being selected. They don't know how, you know, so on and so forth. What's the case that just got done with the kid that shot
Rittenhouse?
Yeah, that, right? As soon as they dropped those gun charges, that's when I knew that dude was going to get off. I was going to ask you about that, lead, by the way. I'll shoot you an email about that. But I was curious about taking the guns across state lines, and once they dropped the gun charges,
pause.
Yeah,
that's not true. And so
well, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, that's not true. He bought the gun in Kenosha, and so, you know, we have to be mindful of where we're getting our information from. You know, again, if you don't understand, if not you in particular, but if people don't understand how to read law and understand what constitutes as one crime or one violation, a lot of people didn't even understand the self-defense law. And so if you're looking at things from a moral standpoint, right? You're having a moral argument
I'm not.
that's rooted in emotion. Not you, I'm just talking people
Okay.
in general. You're having a moral argument that's rooted in emotions and not rooted in law. Those are two separate arguments, right? Morally, I don't agree with a lot of things that happen, right? But when we start talking about the law, we have to be very clear on the elements of the crime, right? And we have to look at the incidents that are taking place and make sure they align with that crime that a person is being charged with, right? But we make moral arguments. We just, hey, he shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have had the gun. No, his dad lives in Kenosha. He had every right to be there, right? So we can talk about all these things. One thing I want to touch on about what you said, okay? And again, like TLA stated, we're all on the same side, okay? The issue is, I always like to ask people who are very passionate about these topics, such as yourself, what are the solutions? I have solutions, right?
I got
I have
solutions.
solutions. So here's what you have to realize as well within this space of criminal justice system. There are approximately 18,000 police departments in this country. Okay, let's be clear, 18,000 police departments. There are approximately 700,000 police officers that actually patrol this entire country, right? Of people who are, 350 million people in this country, 700,000 police officers and dropping, right? The number's declining, right? You're talking about all these people and you have 700,000 officers, right? You know how many people get arrested on average a year? You're talking 10 million people are arrested on average a year. 10 million by the police, right? But let's talk about police contact. Approximately 60 million people make contact with the police every single year. Okay? 10 million arrested. That's a lot of people going through this criminal justice system. So when you start talking about the system's not working and people getting railroaded, you have to bring the facts.
How many?
Right?
Okay.
Wait. Here's the issue. I'm gonna end with this. I'm gonna let you finish. We're looking at Brunswick. We're looking at Glenn County Police Department. That's only one police department out of 18,000. Okay. Here's the problem. All police departments are not created equal, but you wouldn't know that, right? You're not in the profession. You wouldn't know that. So your knowledge and other people's knowledge on how these things work is limited.